Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Krista Gervon of Princeton Integrative Health. I'm the Communications Director, and I'm joined today with Jenna Richardson, who's our Clinical Director, as well as our Functional Medicine Practitioner. She's a mom of two. She's a businesswoman. She does many, many different things, and I'm just really excited to have our second episode of our Women's Health series for Women's History Month today. Where we'll be talking mostly about metabolic reset. And Jenna and I both have personal experiences with the program here at Princeton Integrative Health. So we would like to kind of share our own experiences and then allow anyone who has questions, or even if they have personal experiences with it, join into the conversation as well. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll let Jenna take it from here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Krista. So thanks for the great introduction. As Krista said, I'm Jenna Richardson. I actually am a co-founder of Princeton Integrative Health. So my background is relatively unique in that I've spent many, many years in kind of the corporate world and enterprise technology and management consulting. And then about 7 years ago, when I had my son, Carter, who now is obviously 7, realized that there were other things in my life that I was not pursuing. So like passion, purpose, those types of things. And I think the universe gave me a really big wake-up call when Carter had some health challenges when he was young, and actually the conventional medical model with just prescription drugs almost killed him. So he was prescribed a medication that could have stopped his respiratory process, and he could have actually died. And so that was a real wake-up call for me, and I started down this path of like functional medicine, integrative health, and co-founded the practice with my dad, Dr. Vinny. So really excited to be here. And one of the programs that I'm really excited about because of my own health challenges and health journey is the Metabolic Reset Program, as Krista said. So excited to be here today to talk about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's so important that we cover this topic because it being Women's History Month, I think a lot of women have challenges, especially as they get older, with weight gain, and they think it might just be a weight gain issue or something like that. But there are so many other factors that go into it that I think the Metabolic Reset Program really addresses, whereas other programs kind of focus just on a number on a scale, which we all know is really just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah. So it's really interesting when you dive into the science of weight gain and of resistant weight. And, there are so many diet and weight loss programs out there. I feel like, especially this time of year, like if you turn the TV on, you're just being inundated with like the latest and greatest of Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or whatever it might be. And, I was someone who personally had tried everything. So, I can talk a little bit about my personal story and what led me down the path to introduce Metabolic Reset into our practice. But yeah, to your point, Krista, it's about so much more than just weight. And in our practice, we practice what's called root cause medicine, which is finding out why the body is doing what it's doing and not necessarily just treating the symptoms of that. So, the question is why? Why is my body holding on to fat? Why can't I reach a healthy weight? And to your point, it's hormones, it's the brain, actually. There are aspects of brain health that factor in here. So it's toxins, it's stress, it's all these kind of key components that we'll dive into. For me, I was always anywhere from 15 to 50 pounds overweight, like really starting in my childhood. I was an emotional eater. Food to me was happiness. It was sadness. It was really everything. I come from an Italian family, so I think that tends to be the norm. We celebrated with food. We wallowed in, post-funeral spreads, buffets, things like that. It was like no matter what was going on in your life, it was about food. And that's great. I mean, food should be celebrated. It is a key component of our life, and it's the foundation of our entire energy production within our body. So it's super important. The problem is when we start to use food as a tool that's ineffective in terms of like managing emotions and things like that. So there is absolutely like an emotional component as well that goes into this. as I said, I was anywhere from 15 to 50 pounds overweight. And really, when I look back on that, I also had a whole host of other health issues that went along with that. So I had allergies, acne, asthma. I had a minor autoimmune condition. I had chronic sinus infections, anxiety, just a bunch of things that like were being kind of managed independently of one another, and no like really severe thing. So it wasn't like, oh, you're ill, you're sick or you're ill or anything. I was just like kind of a normal adolescent, normal like early 20 something. And when I got on the path toward appropriate nutrition, when I started to learn about what really worked for my body versus what didn't, my life truly transformed. So like all of those things went away. I lost, the excess weight that I was carrying around. I arrived at a really healthy weight for my height. And I actually pulled out a few old photos. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see them.
Yeah.
Right. But this was me. Like this was me probably about 10. This was early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
And that was how I lived. And I didn't think really anything of it, except that obviously I had my stories of being a child and being teased. And I remember getting on the school bus. We just moved to a new school district. I got on the school bus in sixth grade, and one of the older kids said, "Where'd you get your coat? At a tent store?"
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, I remember those hardships and the challenges around that. And obviously these are things that we carry through our life, but the metabolic reset is really about finding what works for you, finding the right inputs for your body so that your body can produce the appropriate outputs, which ultimately is arriving at a appropriate, healthy metabolic set point, restoration of metabolic energy, mitochondrial energy production, rebalancing of hormones. So it's not just about like weight loss, fat loss, inches lost. It's about restoration of health. And I think that that's a key component that so many of these like diet and weight loss programs miss. It's not about eat this, don't eat that. It's not about calories in, calories out. It's not about counting points, or even counting like macros or anything like that. There is a science behind it, but it's really about doing the right things to support your body and your bodily functions so that your body can truly come back to homeostasis or balance and function optimally.
Yeah, and we've been talking about homeostasis in our other health series with the Dress for Health Success, and just how, all these different systems in our body are woven together through, the diet and rest and stress reduction and all of those things that kind of fold into one another.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's, it's such a journey and a transformative one. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I also grew up in an Italian family, and I was always, I would get seconds of giant bowls of penne, and, that was praised, and I'm glad that it was. No one ever shamed me for wanting to eat more. And I always did actually have a pretty normal body weight, but, I had a huge appetite. And, as you get older and your appetite is still, big, you don't have the same, metabolism, and you're not, running around like a kid and, burning all those calories all the time. And we're working and we're sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
I'm currently doing the program right now. I'm almost done with it actually. And I've lost about 13 pounds. And again, it's not about the number really, but after I've had 3 children now, my youngest is 3.5 years old. And with all of my kids, I, lost weight after having them, obviously. And then there was always that maybe 15 extra pounds that I would have to actually like, all right, I got to work out and start, going on a diet to really get down to where I felt comfortable. And that happened, and I did it. And, that was just the way it was. With Noah, who's my youngest, I ended up nursing him for a lot longer than my previous 2 children. And so after I stopped nursing him, I actually gained weight. And then I was kind of just there, and nothing I did was really working. And I like you, I was like, okay, well, I guess this is just the new me, and I'm older now, and this is where I'm going to be. And I kind of just accepted it. Even though I was uncomfortable and I was, not really thrilled with the way I looked or anything, I just kind of just accepted it until recently. And I realized that there was something I can do about it. And I was just so not just happy and, excited about the quickness and how I was losing the weight, but in how I felt and how much better I was sleeping and just overall more energy. So I wasn't, I mean, I knew that I had heard that from other success stories, but you never know if it's really going to work for you. And really, I did see all those changes as well. So even though I'm kind of still in the program and I have to, you know, continue through the maintenance phase of it, it's something that I would recommend. And I think it's completely sustainable, honestly, because I've learned about the choices I was making previously and how I'm making them now. And I can just see, you know, they're very small changes that you need to make in order to make a big difference in your life. It's not this, you know, I think people think about, you know, a weight loss challenge or something like that and thinking they can't do it because it's too hard or it's not sustainable. And this really, truly is.
Yeah, and that was one of the big, so when we had started our practice, I knew that I wanted to bring in some form of a metabolic program. But again, there are so many of them out there, you know, and I had done a lot of them. I had done Weight Watchers, I had done South Beach, I had done the cabbage soup diet. Like, there, you know, it's always something new because the industry is like a multi-billion-dollar industry, between the books and the programs and all of that. And it's needed because 75% of Americans are overweight. So it's absolutely needed. But the question is it really working? Right. And I think the answer is no, because otherwise we'd be trending in a different direction than we currently are. But that's why I loved this program. So I observed this and vetted it for probably about a year before we brought it on board. And it almost seemed too good to be true, because not only were people losing weight and inches and regaining energy and regaining hormone balance and all of these great things, but they were keeping it off, right? Yeah. And part of that is because they were learning what worked for their body. And once you reprogram your body physiologically, your brain also obviously is part of that process. The cravings go away. You understand what's good for you, not in what's, you know, what's not good for you. You no longer have that kind of physiologic draw towards those things that are not fulfilling. And, you know, I think people are amazed at not just what they learn and what they're able to accomplish, but also how their body like reacts and responds. Like, it no longer desires a lot of the things that it previously had. So it's not just like a mental shift or an emotional shift or even a physical shift. It's actually a physiologic shift, which is really like what runs every aspect of your body. So I think that's really important. And then, you know, the other aspect is,
oh shoot, we freeze. We have frozen, I think. I'm not sure if I'm frozen or if Jenna is, so bear with us if you can hear me. Love the technical difficulties in our virtual world.
Obviously we all have so much of in our daily life. You know, acute stress is fine. Like, there's a reason we have a stress response in our body, and that's basically to keep us safe and protected. But we're not meant to live in chronic states of stress, like day in and day out. And unfortunately, that's the world in which we live nowadays, between, you know, world events, jobs, kids, families, relationships, you know, school, whatever it might be, mortgages, driving down Route 1. I don't know, but there's a lot of stress in our lives. And, you know, even like devices, like that chronic, like being on, like constantly being pinged, constantly being connected, all of those things. So stress is abundant. Obviously this last year has been even more significant in that area. So I think a lot of people have gone through challenges in terms of weight gain, and just poor health, not necessarily from COVID, but just in general. Like, it's just taken a toll on a lot of us. So stress is a major factor. So the program works on re-regulation of the stress process, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. So rebalancing that process, and regulating stress hormone production, which then in turn, as most people probably know, the hormone cortisol, which is our main stress hormone, is actually what they call glucocorticoid, which essentially regulates blood glucose too. liver, our skin as a largest detoxification organ, but we need to make sure that we're doing the right things to support those organs so that they can do their job appropriately. And a lot of times that actually goes back to nutrition. So am I providing my body the right nutritional cofactors, if you will, to promote detoxification? So that's a key piece. And the more toxic your body is, toxins tend to be stored in adipose tissue, which is our fat tissue. So the more fat you have on your body, the more toxic you likely are. So it just becomes a vicious cycle. And then the third key area is gut health. So there's been a lot of research done around the gut microbiome as of late, and you can have, we have trillions of bacteria that live in our gut that control a lot of major metabolic function. So we need to focus on gut health, which ultimately, in the area of integrative health, functional medicine, we talk a lot about how everything goes back to the gut. So gut health is super important, and we support the gut microbiome through this program. So not only, again, is it like, focus on weight and metabolic health, but it's these underlying components and fundamentals that are so important in every aspect of health that really get worked on through this process, which is why people who go through this don't just lose weight and lose inches, but again, they feel better, they're sleeping better, their energy levels are better, their hormones are suddenly rebalanced, whereas if they were dysregulated before. I do always have to put a disclaimer on this for women of childbearing age. A lot of women get pregnant as a result. So if they don't want to get pregnant, be extra careful. We've had a couple of whoopsies as a result. So I do have to put a disclaimer, but that's because your body's well balanced. Like your body recognizes I'm healthy. And I think the biggest expression of health is probably procreation. So I think that speaks volumes.
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't have a scare, but even my cycle was a little bit different this month. So I was like, what's happening? It was just my body re-regulating and calibrating itself, I guess. But
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, actually, back to my story about how I nursed Noah for so long. I felt like at that point, since it had almost been about 2 years that I had nursed him, which was much longer than I even intended to, but I thought at that point, maybe my body was just used to so much calorie intake because I was, eating more because I had to sustain him too. That maybe that part of me was just used to eating that much, and that's what my metabolic system was used to. Was that kind of a...
Yeah. I mean, when you nurse, you obviously burn a lot more calories, right? And you have to take in more to kind of keep up with that regulation process. I think that happens to a lot of women. They stop breastfeeding, their metabolism slows down or re-regulates. It comes back into like normal balance. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm consuming too much food to manage that metabolic process. So we tend to put on some weight. What I think is helpful in metabolic reset is, again, that we work with the body, we work with those major metabolic kind of fundamentals to actually re-regulate and rebalance that metabolic set point. So not only does your body recognize, again, physically, but it's like physiologically, this is where I'm meant to be. So, I've now lost, in 6 weeks, I lost 20 pounds, and now, I'm not 180, I'm now 160, and this is where I'm meant to be. And then, that's not my weight, but just speaking on behalf of anybody, but then maybe that's not the ideal weight. So then you go through another cycle. So we're putting it's biohacking, a bit of it, right? You're putting your body into a certain state for about 6-week time frame. We don't do it extensively. We don't do it too long, but within a 6-week time period, you're really able to, again, lose the weight, lose the inches, get to a much better set point. Then we take a few weeks off, and then we can re-engage in the losing phase. So it's structured to keep your body out of stress. One of the things that I think a lot of people enjoy is that I actually try to limit exercise. So you want to be moving, like you want your lymph circulating. Movement's important in so many ways. Get endorphins going, that type of stuff. But you don't want to put too much stress on your body. So we talk about the stress component of this. Physical stress is another way that our bodies become stressed. So, I've had clients who are like competitive tennis players and, religious Orange Theory goers, like, 6 days a week at Orange Theory, like 5:30 in the morning, getting it in. And that's great. But sometimes your body's just like, whoa, stop, like it's just too much. So even that physical stress can be cumulative and can create like a burden, where when your body's in that stress state, it wants to actually just hold on to the fat and not release it. So those people, I love those people, because they get on this program, they start like working out a little bit less, shift their diet a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like the resistant weight that I had for the last 20 years, it just melts off. So
yeah, we recently got a Peloton, and where my husband is like doing these hardcore workouts, I'll get on for 20 minutes and do a scenic ride.
that's nice.
Kind of like riding through, the hills of Italy or something. It's like, it's very nice, but you're still getting that, a little bit of cardio in, so it is good, but you're not breaking too much of a sweat.
Yeah. And the other thing too, and I don't know if you've seen these results, but I know a lot of people, like we've had people come in with, chronic skin rashes, just, other ailments that they didn't realize were based upon what they were putting into their bodies and into their system. So this oftentimes in any health challenge can be a really great starting point.
Yeah.
Just getting like your nutrition right, your energy levels right, your stress levels down, your toxic burden down, your gut health more well aligned. Like, again, just foundational components can make such a big difference in so many ways.
Yeah, you're reducing so much of the inflammatory foods that you maybe normally are eating, and that's not only helping with the weight and things like that, but also, like you said, with skin conditions or other stomach issues that you may have. So
yeah, I'm curious. I have a question for you. So you mentioned that you kind of learned a lot through this process. What would you say are like your 3 biggest takeaways about either how you were living your life or what your body needs versus not?
The biggest surprise I think that I took away was how off my portion sizes were. I mean, I would think nothing of eating an 8-ounce steak, or even maybe at a restaurant they're probably even bigger, and a side of vegetables. But they were probably needed to be reversed. I mean, now I'm eating the 4 ounces of meat and it looks smaller, but it's really completely filling. Like it's enough. And then it's funny when you see me weighing out 4 ounces of kale, it's like on my plate. I'm like, it looks ridiculous. If you cook it down, it does take up less space. But I think that would be the biggest like aha that I had. I was like, okay, so now I realize, if I can keep my portion sizes like this going forward, then that's a huge part of it. I've talked to Dr. Connie about this too in some of our health series for the Dress for Health Success, about having the meat as a side, instead of like the vegetables should really be the main event, and then your meat and carbs as the side dish. What else? I think just having more energy throughout the day. A lot, you are tired by the end of the night and you want to go to bed earlier and things like that. So it's just, it's just a nice shift and you feel better the next day. I think those are the 2 biggest things. Had more energy for my kids, which I need because I have 3 very energetic boys. So.
Yeah, I think that's a common one for a lot of people, is just like recognizing what you should have been eating versus what you were, and maybe you're like, I mean, I know you, like, I know that you weren't gluttonous, like you weren't eating, from the drive-through window every day or anything. Like you were pretty healthy for the most part, but it's to your point, those small changes can really have a tremendous impact.
Right. And even the mindless snacking sometimes, you're like, whereas now, adding that piece of fruit at the end of every meal, it keeps you going for so long until that next meal. You really don't even need to. I was snacking a little bit in the beginning with, the cucumbers and the celery, but now I don't even snack between them. I will have tea if I need anything to like keep me, if I just need something, and usually that works. Like you're not necessarily hungry, maybe you're thirsty, you can drink water or some, delicious tea. So that's been an eye opener too.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm going to go look on Facebook to see if we have any questions, but feel free to keep going. I just want to make sure we're not missing anyone.
Missing anybody. Yeah, this, to your point about the vegetables and stuff, I feel like this is a perfect time of year too in the spring.
Yeah.
Because so much more is going to be like readily available for consumption. So veggies and fruit as well. And like, that's another thing about MRP that I love, is that I feel like so many programs really kind of demonize fruit. And I've always felt that fruit is super healing and super healthy. And obviously for people who have like, dysregulated diabetes or things like that, like you have to be careful, but for the most part 99% of the population should be eating fruit. So to remove that, I think, can be challenging. And I also think it sets people up for failure, because you have various taste buds, right, that like desire different types of flavors. So that sweet, I think, really is helpful in this process of feeling like satiated.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like I would always want a piece of something sweet after a meal, like a piece of chocolate, or, not necessarily a huge dessert, but something sweet. And the fruit has been so good for that. And it really, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but you can't really compare fruit to chocolate. I know chocolate is amazing and delicious, but it is like a little piece of like nature's candy after your meal.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad it's included. And I think, just that little bit of sugar just to keep you kind of like sustained was super helpful.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah. And
I froze again. Back. Sorry, I'm frozen. Come back, come back, come back. Sorry, I'm back. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just saying that the meeting time is winding down here, so we're at 12:30.
Okay.
I just wanted to, put it out there that if anyone has any interest in the Metabolic Reset Program, we do complimentary discovery consultations, or health strategy sessions. So feel free to call the office to schedule that. The number is 609-512-1468. You can also email us at info@princetonih.com. There's a decent webpage on our website around the Metabolic Reset Program, so feel free to check that out. And and we are doing a spring promotion, so pretty significant discount off of the program price, because we know it's a time of year that is really about kind of restoration and replenishment and rebirth and growth and all these great things, and kind of coming out of hibernation. So hibernation in so many ways, hopefully not just the winter, but also the kind of the lockdown that we've all been under for the last year. So
yeah, I mean, before I froze, I wanted to also say that just, now that we are going to be heading into restaurants again more often, this has helped me, because I've only been a couple times since I've been on the program, but it's helped me make better decisions when I'm eating out, because portions can be so huge, so full of God knows what ingredients. So, last night I went with my mom for the first time, and I got, we split calamari, but it wasn't fried. It was like sauteed with tomatoes and pine nuts. And yes, there was oil in it, but it was just delicious. And then I got escarole and beans for my soup. And so, there was definitely some that weren't for the program, kind of the cheat day, but it was still, normally I would eat like, penne alla vodka or something like that. That's super heavy and, much more than I need. So it would definitely say that.
The other thing I was going to say too is, because I haven't done the program for the duration, like the duration that you have. I think most people do it for 6 weeks and can expect to lose usually around 20 to 25 pounds.
Again. Shoot. Sorry. Okay, thanks for joining. Sorry about that.